I hope you are watching or recording every episode of our brand new Huckabee Today show. It goes on every weekday at 6:30 Eastern, 5:30 Central, right here on TBN. It is a show of common sense conversation about the issues that you and your family face, and then some insights into the why and what to do about them. We're going to continue to bring you our Weekend Huckabee show, Saturday and Sunday, of course, with news and entertainment and music. But now you can watch our daily show as well. We'd love to know what you think about it or this show. And you can send your thoughts at comments@MikeHuckabee.com. Well, one of my favorite features on this show is an occasional trip to what we call our kind of town. We go sometimes out of the way places, usually small towns all across the country. And quite frankly, we come away with the feeling that they really are our kind of town. Well, this past week, Janet and I spent a few days in a place that we heard about when it was featured right here on this show when we told you about Strasburg, Pennsylvania. And we said it was our kind of town. Now, we've been wanting to go and visit ever since we did that feature. And finally, we did so this week. Gosh, we enjoyed our time up in the Amish country in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. We stayed at a place that we featured on the segment. It's called the Red Caboose Motel. Every room is an actual railroad caboose remade into the most novel hotel room with an incredible restaurant, first-class, state-of-the-art, multi-purpose venue center created from a barn from which we saw a fabulous music show. And then the Sight and Sound Theater nearby, indescribable, but a stunning production of the story of Daniel from the Bible. The technical marvel of the experience, it's second to none in scope, impact, and quality. Hey, we loved our time there and the hospitable people there. But I'm not telling you all of this just to relive a few days of our little vacation, but rather as a reminder of something that this trip reminded me. America is not completely lost. You know, doing what I do day after day, watching and analyzing the news, it can be discouraging, even disturbing. It's kind of like watching the insanity of men saying they're really women and demanding to play women's sports. And then they invade the privacy of teen girls in a locker room. It's crazy. Seeing our federal government shoot an airport executive in the head in Little Rock after crashing down his door at 6 a.m. to simply investigate if he was selling too many guns at gun shows. And that kind of stuff makes us wonder if any rational people are around to intervene in such senseless actions. And then you witness a 75-year-old seriously ill grandmother who just a couple of weeks ago got sentenced to a long prison sentence for protesting at an abortion clinic, all the time while illegal immigrants beat up a cop on the streets of New York, and they get released back on the streets before the cop gets the stitches out of his head. Then there are rioters. They destroy property and vandalize public statues around the White House. They don't even get arrested. But people who did less than that on January 6th of 2021 have sat in a jail without a trial for 3 years. We've got a media that is terminally ill with Trump derangement syndrome. And in doing so, they've lost all credibility. We pay no attention to them. And we face an economy that is destroying the lives of working-class families, only to be told by the current president and his acolytes that everything is great and we ought all to be living large. I'll tell you, it's easy to become almost despondent over such stuff. But a trip to what is left out here in what I call real America, quite frankly, that can be just the medicine for people who are losing their optimism and losing their hope for this great republic. You know, I'm not saying our country isn't facing serious, maybe even insurmountable challenges. And we may not even survive the constant attacks by those who hate this country and who think we're nothing but a hateful, racist, fascist land of bigots, white supremacists, and bad people. But I tell you, beyond the four pods of power in New York, Washington, Hollywood, and Silicon Valley, there really are a lot of simply sane people who love America, believe that it is the greatest place on earth. They're raising their families to cherish each other and their country. And these are people who work hard every day at their jobs to provide for themselves without demanding that the government take care of them. And these are people who are white, black, yellow, and brown. They're male and female. They're Christian, Jewish, Hindu, Muslim. Maybe they're none of the above. Some are rich and some are poor. And many are somewhere in the middle. But they all have one thing in common. They haven't given up on God, our country, or each other. And the more time I spend hanging out with them, I'm not giving up either. My first guest tonight is serving his first year as the governor of Louisiana, but he's no stranger to public service. He's previously served the Pelican State in Congress and also as its 45th Attorney General. Please give a big old Huckabee Show welcome to Governor Jeff Landry of Louisiana. Governor, it is really great having you here. You know, when I get somebody from Louisiana, the first thing I got to ask them, what's your favorite Louisiana recipe? I mean, that's what's important, right?
Gumbo.
Gumbo. That's my dog's name, by the way. One of my dogs is named Gumbo. Why not?
It's a great. You should come down and have some gumbo with us.
You know, I can't think of anything I'd love more because I'm telling you, I may not be an LSU fan, but I do love the state and the people and the absolutely phenomenal recipes that
Well, we love the SEC, and we love when Arkansas comes and plays at LSU.
No, you don't. You don't love it at all.
No. We love when you'll come and we win.
That's what I mean. And you beat us up pretty bad, and it's rough. But let me just say
hang in there. It'll come around.
Yeah, it's got to get better. It's got to get better. You had a remarkable career as Attorney General before you became governor. You were one of the really leading attorneys generals in the country, challenging a lot of the nonsense of the federal government. And I really believe that the action these days is not in Washington, it's at the state level. Why is that?
Well, because we don't fix the country in Washington, D.C. We fix the country by fixing our states, because it was the states that made the country. I tell people all the time that the Constitution is a contract between the people in the states, and the federal government's a byproduct of it. And so I believe that we fix the country when we fix our states.
You elected governor, and then you got right to work with education reform, working on things on crime, because, you know, 3 of the top 10 cities that have had high crime rates are in the state of Louisiana. So you've taken that head on, and a lot of governors would just say, oh, it's not really a problem. But what are you doing that's helping to get that turned around?
Well, Louisiana was pretty much a train wreck over the last 8 years, and we saw our economy decline. We saw the statistics on education at the bottom, and our crime. Like you said, we had 3 cities in the top 10 most dangerous cities in the country. And so, I just drew upon my experience, not only as the 8 years of Attorney General, but also as I served as a sheriff's deputy and a police officer in my earlier years. And I knew that when you instill law and order, you instill stability, and we went right to it. The legislature came in, we called a special session, and in 2 weeks, we passed 20 sweeping bills that basically created transparency in our criminal justice system with an eye that said, listen, when good people make bad decisions, they deserve a second chance, but when bad people continue to do bad things again and again, they need to go to jail.
You know, New Orleans is one of the really great cities of the world. I mean, it truly is. The culture, the cuisine, I mean, it's just unique. Are you taking steps that are making it so that people can feel safe when they go to New Orleans again?
Oh, absolutely. We did it from day one. We instituted a troop NOLA, so we put the state police directly in the city of New Orleans. The city of New Orleans had been under a federal consent decree. And for those of y'all that don't know, this is when the federal government comes and says that we're going to take over your police department, and you end up with one of the most dangerous cities in America, because some federal judge who knows nothing about law enforcement is trying to dictate how you run a police department. And the policies were basically more coddled towards the criminals than they were towards the victims. We went in there, brought the state police in. We took, and again, the sweeping reforms that we took in a special session, I think, are paying dividends now. We're starting to see crime fall. I mean, at one point in time, the city of New Orleans had people riding around with dirt bikes and four-wheelers, and you could have swore it was a third world country. Today, we're not doing that. The state police in there, we're seizing those bikes. We're telling people law and order is back on those streets.
What a novel idea, actually enforcing the laws that you've already got. No wonder you're one of the most popular governors in America right now, and I know that that's the truth. The polling numbers show that the people of Louisiana are responding very, very positively to the leadership that you've given them.
Well, you know, the sad thing is, I think about my grandfather. If he could come out the grave, he'd say, I can't believe they gave you the job to do something that sane people would want to do anyhow, you know? But that's where we are in America.
Well, we've got a lot more to talk about with Governor Jeff Landry of Louisiana. When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation, so don't you go anywhere. But in the meantime, Keith Bilbrey is going to fill out the rest of the show for us and tell us what's coming.
Well, we've also got NCAA champion and women's rights advocate Riley Gaines. And later, Cindy Morgan performs her song Tame, tonight on Huckabee. Go to MikeHuckabee.com and sign up for his free newsletter and follow @GovMikeHuckabee on X.
We are back with the Republican governor of Louisiana, Governor Jeff Landry. Your state is a very, very energy-focused state. You have a lot of offshore drilling, you've got oil and gas, and also an enormous number and significant refineries. What is it that most Americans in non-energy states may not understand about how important energy is, even if they don't live in an energy-centered state?
Well, you're right. I mean, Louisiana is home to 21% of the refining capacity in the entire country. When you say the refining capacity, all of the great things that we enjoy that improve America's quality of life are made mostly with petroleum products out there, and they make them down in Louisiana and Texas, and the Gulf Coast, I think, has 57% of refining capacity. Look, I've always believed it's all about energy. You know, Governor, it's all about bringing Americans affordable energies that runs an economy. I mean, think about it. It's as important as when you get up in the morning and you want to turn the hairdryer on. If you're a lady that's going to get ready to go to work, you want that hairdryer to go on.
I wish I had enough hair to worry about
Me
that.
too,
I
but-
really, really do. But
Yeah.
I know that a lot of the women in the audience would probably be pretty well lost without that. But
When the AC, you want the air conditioner to work,
yeah.
especially if you're down here in the south, the heat in the winter, and if you're up north. And again, I think that's what we've lost, just common sense when it comes to energy policy in this country. I mean, in a country that is so blessed with so many opportunities for energy to drive our economy, what we're focused on is what we're focused on in Louisiana is really trying to focus on the industries and the businesses that built Louisiana, because those industries helped to build America as well. And we're working to streamlining the permitting process. We're working on being responsible, but we're also looking at being responsive to the needs that the industry needs.
it's tough, though. I mean, you're doing that at the state level, but the federal government has declared war on fossil fuels at a time when, just before Joe Biden came in, we were energy independent for the first time in 75 years. He comes in and basically says, we hate fossil fuels. And I'm just wondering, do most Americans even understand that without the resources of energy that we have, a lot of which are fossil fuels, the entire economy begins to fall apart?
Oh, look, if they hadn't figured it out, they're starting to. And if you look at the high prices that we pay at the pump, the utility costs that we're paying today, inflation is eating away at the middle class right now, and it's all based upon terrible policies. It has nothing to do with solid fundamental economics. And look, I've been raving about that since my days in Congress. And you're right, we had finally, under the Trump years, we had finally started to turn America into an energy-dominant country. We finally had an opportunity under which we had some leverage over the rest of the world. And in 4 short years, the Biden administration has taken that leverage and just basically given it to all of the countries that actually hate the United States.
Well, I'm hoping that your example can be seen in other states and people will recognize this is just common sense policy. I want to shift to education because you're doing some very bold, creative things, heavy lifting, but it's also getting the pushback from the expected teachers' unions and people who don't want parents to be making decisions about their children. So talk about what you're trying to get done in Louisiana and how you'll get it done in spite of opposition.
Well, you were one of the first governors to really tackle education and educational reform back then. And we've just been building on what we've seen going on around the country and especially in the South. And again, we want parents to be in control. We want the money to follow the child. We want parents.
I think most everybody here as a parent can say amen to that.
Sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's their tax money. They should be able to be in control of it. And, you know, the thing that we did to balance it, because you hear it from the public school teachers, and usually my mother was a public school teacher. And so what we did was we created a program called Let the Teacher Teach. And so we invited public school teachers to come in and tell us what are the things that the government is doing to basically prevent them from being able to educate kids. And so we started working on things like discipline in classrooms, making sure that we took away the things that just basically made teachers today babysitters or social workers. If we need social workers in school, we'll get social workers, but we want teachers to teach. And so we balance the ESA,
I think these people want to register to vote in Louisiana. Go ahead.
You know what? We're going back to the basics, too. Look, we did two things that were real unique. We just signed up with PragerU. So that PragerU teachers are going to be able in Louisiana to use PragerU for history curriculums, which is actual factual history. And then I signed a bill.
You're getting more applause in your segment than I've had in 7 years. I just want you to know that.
Well, you know
what? I'm happy about this
because we just signed a bill that says we're going to display the 10 Commandments in school.
God bless you. You'll get sued.
We'll get sued. We got a great attorney general.
You know, you do. You had one for a long time when you were in that job. Folks, I want to tell you something. I wish we had 50 governors just like Jeff Landry. I bet you agree with me. He's getting the job done, and we're thrilled to have him here with us. Hey, if you want to keep up with Governor Landry as he serves the people of Louisiana and sets an example for the rest of the country, here's how you do it. Go to our website at Huckabee.tv. We will connect you to Governor Landry and the state of Louisiana. Right now, Keith Bilbrey is going to connect you with the rest of this show and tell us who we have lined up. Keith, take it away.
Still to come, 12-time All-American swimmer and activist Riley Gaines joins Mike at the desk. And up next, comedian juggler David Deeble performs a very unique set of skills right here on Huckabee.
Welcome back, everybody. You know, you never know what we're going to do on this show. You just have to watch the whole thing to be surprised. Well, David Deeble won the International Jugglers Association Junior Championships when he was all of 13 years old. But after a neurological condition took away the use of his right arm, he developed a set of very unique skills. His unnatural act has taken him from The Tonight Show to Las Vegas to the Magic Castle in Hollywood. And he's the only performer ever kicked off of America's Got Talent just for describing his act. Brace yourselves for David Deeble.
Well, thank you very much. It is great to be on Huckabee, great to be back in the land of my forebears, Tennessee. I live in Los Angeles. What's nice about this time of year in LA is that magic moment each night when the sound of leaf blowers gives way to that of police choppers. It's kind of soothing. It's really nice. I ordinarily begin my show by demonstrating a few simple skills, then I gradually do the more difficult ones. But tonight, because I sense so much love coming from you folks, I'm going to skip all the easy stuff and go directly to one-ball juggling. I'll begin by kicking this genuine billiard ball into the air and then catch it nestled in my right eye socket. That old chestnut. Nope. I'm okay. Thank you. For my cultural contribution this evening, I'm going to share with you folks the ancient Aztec art of face juggling. Thank you. Yep. I don't think they noticed. Thank you very much. All this talent, and I'm also a notary. I'm going to take things a step further now by combining three popular American pastimes: billiards, table tennis, and face juggling. There's more. Ow. No. I don't need your pity. Lock the doors. I'm doing this for 3 more hours. Very difficult. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'm married. I got married old school to a woman, and I have to say that getting married was the best decision I ever made. I'll never forget putting on that wedding ring for the very first time and thinking, I am someone else's problem now. So my wife and I have 2 daughters and a son. Of course, I'm old enough to remember when you had to wait till your kids were born to learn if you were having a boy or a girl. Nowadays, of course, you have to wait until they're 50. Here's something I've been working on using an ordinary highlighter pen. Just gonna give it my best shot. One day I'm gonna nail that and the crowd is gonna go nuts. All right, I have to start wrapping things up here because as you can imagine with an act like mine, you don't really stay in one place very long. If you'd like to learn more about me, I encourage you to visit my website, daviddeeble.com. If you'd like to learn how I came up with my act, you can visit my mom's new site, nevershakeababy.org. You ever wonder why people never try to impress family and friends by juggling plastic grocery bags? Here's why that is. Whoops, almost missed. All right, to conclude my portion of the show, I'm gonna juggle all 3 grocery bags using only one hand at a time. This won't last long. I know this looks stupid, but when you get home, it's gonna be the first thing you're gonna try.
Oh, David, that was fun.
Thank you, Mike.
You know, what I loved is the grocery bags. I'm thinking, you know, I might could juggle a grocery bag. I'm not sure.
Well, you know, they're not even legal in California anymore.
Of course not, no. You could get arrested for having...
That's
you
right.
don't get arrested for tearing something up or sleeping on somebody's doorstep, but carrying around one of those?
If you need some of these, I know a guy who can hook you up. So.
Well, hey, David Deeble is going to be at the Magic Castle in Hollywood, July the 8th through the 14th, and the Ahern Hotel in Las Vegas, August the 15th through the 17th. If you want to see more, hey, you book him for your venue or your event. Here's how. Visit Huckabee.tv. We will get you connected with David Deeble. Right now, speaking of juggling, Keith is juggling some exciting guests, and he's going to tell us what's popping up next. Take it away, Keith.
Well, let's see. When we return, Riley Gaines discusses her inspiring stand for equality and fairness in women's sports. You're watching Huckabee.
Hey, coming back with some fantastic blues from Stevie Ray Vaughan called Pride and Joy. Our pride and joy on this show happens to be our music. Trey Corley and the Music City Connection. Give them a little appreciation and love. Well, my next guest is an All-American champion, and I'm not just talking about her swimming career. She's a courageous champion for women's sports and protecting Title IX. That's given women real opportunities to be in competitive sports. Well, that is until biological men have tried to destroy those opportunities by cheating and pretending that they're women. I want you to welcome 5-time SEC champion, author of the brand new book called Swimming Against the Current. Give it up for Riley Gaines. I will say to you, welcome back, because you were with us before, but my goodness, your life has taken some interesting turns. Did you ever imagine that simply standing up for yourself, you were going to end up being either one of the most loved or hated women in America?
That's a good way to put it, because that's exactly how it feels. But no, how in the world could anyone have ever anticipated this, much less for myself or anyone for that matter? But it's a necessary position. It is a worthwhile position, and I would argue it's an urgent position. But, you know, the position that I'm in, we've got wonderful leaders like Governor Landry, your daughter, Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders, both of which we heard a bunch of things that he has done. But what he just did in recent weeks, maybe 2 weeks ago, is he signed a bill into effect, making Louisiana the 8th state that has defined the word woman in law, which is crazy.
It is crazy that we have to even do that. I mean, who would have ever thought that that was going to be necessary to say, okay, we're going to tell you in law what a woman is?
We have a sitting Supreme Court justice who can't even answer the question of what is a woman because she claims she's not a biologist. Well, guess what? I'm not a veterinarian, but I know what a dog is. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And it's no surprise that this is the same Supreme Court justice who a few weeks ago in an interview, she said she felt like our First Amendment rights were hamstringing the government. Precisely. That is precisely what our First Amendment rights are supposed to do. That's why we have the Bill of Rights. And if our government can't understand or abide by that, that's precisely why we have the Second Amendment. So, no surprise there.
You know, it's almost like people don't realize that every one of the Bill of Rights was a restriction on government, never on citizens. It told government what it couldn't do. It never told citizens what it couldn't do. It gave them the freedom. Well, you exercised your freedom, and for that, you even were held hostage for a little while back in California when you went to speak. I mean, tell us about that, because that was one of the craziest things I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, no, that was insane, to say the least. I went to San Francisco, which was my first mistake, going to San Francisco. But really, I went there with the intention of sharing a very similar message to what you're hearing right now, what I've been speaking about for 2 years. But I was naive to believe that this was at San Francisco State University. So I was naive to believe that these students and community members would come with an open mind and the willingness to have their hearts softened, because they did not. They came with pitchforks and fire. And upon delivering my message, yeah, I mean, I was ambushed. I was attacked. These protesters, hundreds of them, they entered into the room. They turned the lights off. They rushed to the front. That's when I'm being pushed, I'm being shoved, I'm being punched in the face by these men wearing dresses, which, fortunately for me, their punches really don't hurt that bad. But really, they ended up holding me for ransom for 4 or 5 hours throughout the middle of the night, demanding that if I wanted to make it home to see my family safely again, I had to pay them money.
Where were the law enforcement people?
Governor Huckabee, this was in San Francisco. They were being held for ransom with me.
Oh, my soul.
It sounds crazy, but
It is
seriously,
crazy.
looking at the police officers, pretty sure we're being held against our will. Pretty sure we call that kidnapping.
Yeah.
Isn't there something you can do? To which they said, no, there's not. There's nothing we can do. We're not allowed to do anything because we're not allowed to be seen as anything other than an ally to this community, or else we'll lose our jobs. Keep in mind the same community who's on the other side of the door calling these officers racist pigs for protecting a white girl like me.
It's hard to believe that you were in the same country that some of us live in, because I don't recognize that. But it shows the insanity of so many people. I remember when that whole collegiate swimming thing happened, and the man who pretended to be a woman and called himself Leah Thomas swam. You tied, but they gave him the medal, and they made a big deal out of it. He went into the locker room with the girls. I don't want to get disgusting here, but I mean, did you guys, I mean, wasn't that just a total invasion of your privacy and modesty to have some guy come in and undress in front of you and pretend that he was one of you? To
put it lightly, that's how I would describe it. It felt like betrayal, really. Of course, it's awkward. Speaking specifically to the locker room, it's awkward, it's embarrassing, it's uncomfortable. But I think the best way to describe the general consensus of how we all felt was traumatized. And not even necessarily traumatized because of what we were forced to see or how we were forcibly and non-consensually exploited. It was traumatic for me to know just how easy it was for those people who created these policies and enforced these policies to totally dismiss our rights to privacy without even a second thought, without even bare minimum forewarning us that we would be sharing this changing space.
You know, before we go to break, I think a nice postscript here is that this week, he was denied the opportunity to swim as a woman in the Olympic Games because he's not a woman. Were you surprised that they said no?
You know what? I'll say that I wasn't surprised, just because, I mean, I cannot believe we have to have a court ruling that says men and women are different. I mean, this is essentially, we're all just basically cheering on, it's the equivalent of cheering on a judge who says the sun sets in the west.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing here. But in today's climate, the cultural shift that we have seen, maybe it is surprising that we have, especially given everything that's going on in New York with President Trump, maybe it is surprising that we have a justice system that adheres to its original intent, why it's there. So maybe it is surprising.
We want you to stay with us. This is a remarkable young lady. I'm telling you, she is one of the most courageous people, male or female, in our country right now, to put up with what she's doing. Something really, really huge happened this week in the courtroom. More of my conversation with Riley Gaines is coming up. You do not want to miss it. But right now, Keith, I know there's even more show later. What do we got?
Well, still to come, a toe-tapping performance by the legendary Cindy Morgan. You won't want to miss it right here on Huckabee. Huckabee.tv and get your very own made in the USA Huckabee mugs, t-shirts, and more.
We are back with 12-time All-American swimmer Riley Gaines. Riley, this week, something really huge happened in a Texas courtroom. A judge has now said that the Biden administration cannot just take its eraser and scrub Title IX right off the law books. Explain to us, because a lot of people hear the term Title IX. They may not understand what that means. It's a 50-year-old effort. What does that do with this judge's ruling?
Yes. So Title IX was enacted in 1972. So it's 52 years old. In its original implementation, it's only 37 words, very short piece of legislation, a little paragraph, one word being activity, which ultimately allowed Title IX to be what it's most notable for, which is giving equal opportunity in sports. But we have an administration in the White House right now who has actively and illegally, an illegal administrative rewrite of Title IX, wrote a new proposal, entirely changing Title IX's original intent. They took this 37 words and created a new proposal that's almost 500,000 words. That should tell you everything that you need to know right there. 37 words to now 1,577 pages long. And what he's done here, what President Biden has done, is equate sex with gender identity. Say those, they're the same thing, they're synonymous, those words are interchangeable, which allows for men to take academic and athletic scholarships away from women. It allows men to have full access in bathrooms, locker rooms, changing spaces on any college campus or any educational program that receives federal funding. It allows for men to be housed in dorm rooms with women. Your speech would be compelled. So if you, a student or a professor or a coach for that matter, if you don't use the biologically incorrect but preferred pronouns, you would be guilty under this new rewrite. You would be guilty and charged with sexual harassment. Not the man parading around your locker room. No, to President Biden, that's considered brave. He said it many times. He says, these are the most brave and inspiring people I've ever met. But you calling a spade is grounds for sexual harassment.
I'm going to tell you what courage is. Courage is what I'm looking at right here. I'm looking at courage. And thank God for you, Riley. You know, it was pretty obvious that Joe Biden couldn't do that because this was a law. The executive branch cannot write law. That is the role of the legislative branch. And if you make administrative changes, you have to go through a process called the APA, Administrative Procedures Act. It's a complicated process. You have hearings, you bring in witnesses, and he just did it all by himself. And the Texas judge ruled, I think, not just correctly, but almost without even thinking of what else could he do. Let me go to this. You've written a book, Swimming Against the Current. I think it's an important book. I hope every mom, every grandmother, and every young lady reads your book and understands that it's not just women playing sports, it's women taking a stand for being a female. And that's what you've really chronicled in the book. And when you wrote this, I'm guessing that 2 years ago, you weren't thinking, I'm going to be traveling all over the country speaking, writing books, doing TV interviews, being an advocate for Title IX sports. But here you are. And what do you wake up every day and say, oh my, what have I done?
Yeah, that's about right. It really is. I have to remind myself, I mean, the platform that has been built now, the impact that has been had, it's merely for saying that men and women are different. That's it. Like, that's it. Like, there are two sexes. You can't change your sex, and each sex is deserving of equal opportunity, privacy, and safety. But for saying that, you're met with some of the most heinous, profane, obscene, violence in many cases. Some of the most insane attacks you could possibly imagine. I mean, I've been spit on. I've been attacked. I've been held for ransom. The list goes on. You know, this is hilarious to me. The National Organization of Women, right now, this is the group that wore the pink hats. They fought for Title IX.
Yeah.
They just released an article that said I was a white supremacist patriarchist. I don't even know what that means.
A patriarchist, that on its face is absurd.
Yes. But all of that to say, again, it's been 2 years now of ups and downs, and it's been a total whirlwind. So to be able to add author to my resume, I actually just found out the book is a national bestseller, which is very exciting.
Good for you. Good for you. It should be. One of the things I think makes you so effective, you're such an articulate person and you make sense of it. Riley Gaines, I don't know what they think of you in San Francisco, but on this show, you are our hero, and we're glad to have you. You can keep up with all of Riley's endeavors and get this brand new book called Swimming Against the Current. If you visit Huckabee.tv, we will tell you how to get your copy, and I hope you'll do it right now.
That's our show for tonight, folks. Go to Huckabee.tv for more information on all of tonight's guests and to see an online exclusive performance by Cindy Morgan.
If you enjoyed this video, I hope you'll consider clicking the subscribe button below and the notification bell next to it so you don't miss any of our future videos when they go up online.